Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Analysing Anfield, your tactics and analytics podcast, courtesy of the Blood Red channel. I am once again joined by David Hughes. You okay, mate?
I'm very good, thanks, Josh. How are you?
Are you sure you're okay?
I'm okay, mate, yeah. Let's just get on with the show.
Everton lost 2-0 on the weekend, lads.
Yeah. It's a happier place for me in this world, in the Analysing Anfield world. Everything's just rosier.
Yeah, well, just about, because the weekend we scraped it. We are back at an earlier than usual date today on the Tuesday. So it still feels a little tiny bit fresh, but no real time to look back because we've got Napoli tomorrow, Brighton on the weekend. But nevertheless, we're going to do that. We're going to analyse Palace and then we're going to look ahead to the two upcoming matches. Slightly less on Napoli though, because obviously we've already analysed them a couple of months ago. But I think from my perspective, just regarding Crystal Palace, didn't particularly like the match. I thought it fell under the category of lucky win, rather than ugly or, dominance or anything like that. That's
basically a theme that we've come up with on the show, isn't it?
I suppose it is.
Two ways on the tight games.
yeah. But I think for me, it didn't go as expected, as I said, and I think that was not because we, interpreted the numbers wrong or anything like that. I think for me, it was just a case of Liverpool being below par.
Yeah. I mean, we did say it'd be a tight game, though, didn't we?
We did,
in the sense that scoreline type, maybe, rather than necessarily Liverpool not dominating the game.
Yeah, we did, but particularly in relation to the shot count. It looks completely wrong. Obviously, I expected Liverpool to post upwards of 20 shots and Palace below 10, just because that seems to be the way things go. That seems to be the way Palace perform against top teams like Liverpool. But it wasn't the case. Palace took 16, Liverpool took 12. Liverpool actually got outshot on the day, and that doesn't happen particularly often at all. And when it does, it's usually against top sides. So it was
it's quite remarkable, really, that actually, isn't it? Especially considering Palace don't seem to be very attack minded, and we flagged Hodgson, didn't we, as someone who doesn't really tend to over focus on winning these games and maybe just getting through them a little bit.
Yeah, well, we perceived him, didn't we, as quite a very standard mid-table manager. Just good in some areas, not particularly good in some areas, but not terrible at anything, not great at anything. Happy to assume the inferior role, if you like, against bigger sides. So I expected it to be attack versus defence, but I think it materialised a little bit differently to that. As I said, because Liverpool seemed off it to me. Liverpool didn't seem as well drilled as usual. Didn't particularly seem to sustain pressure as well as usual in terms of keeping the ball in Palace's half for virtually the whole match. We seemed to let them just break through our press a little bit. Quite often, the ball was in and around the midfield quite often rather than being in their half, as I said, and it was just a little bit more out of our control than usual. Well, go on.
I was going to say, what I found really interesting when I was having a look back is I think Liverpool, possession-wise, still were just about the more dominant side, weren't they? But I noticed in the first half, they had about 68% of the ball, and in the second, it was only 48%. And it's very rare that you'd kind of... I suppose what impacts that slightly is Liverpool were winning early in the second half, but you still normally expect Liverpool to remain the dominant side, don't you? And I think it's maybe says a lot about what you're pointing out in terms of the struggles to keep them penned in, because traditionally when we think about Liverpool, they normally keep them penned in and the opposition will get a little bit panicked, clear the lines, and that's where Liverpool regain the ball again and just keep it wave after wave, and it doesn't seem to be they were doing that as good in the second half, at least.
Yeah, it just felt as though there was a little bit of a lack of intensity for me. Liverpool obviously relentless, high tempo and things like that, but there was plenty of moments, particularly in the first half, where the ball was being played around the likes of Robertson, Van Dijk, Lovren high up the field, deep in the field, and and there was no real pace to it, no real intent, and it was just a bit too. Obviously, that was the game plan from Palace's perspective. Just let Liverpool's deeper players have the ball, keep your shape, sort of thing. But there was no real intent from Liverpool to, okay, now we're going to go. Now we're going to play forwards. Now we're going to break the lines or whatever. I must say, Lovren broke the lines a couple of times. Matip-style passes in a couple of instances.
Do you think Liverpool missed Matip in those moments, in those games?
Yeah, he's definitely a useful player in possession. Matip, he's inclined to, if we are against a team like this and their approach is to, sit 10 behind the ball and rather than close down, keep your shape. Matip's inclined to just run with the ball towards the nearest man, make him come towards him, almost like bait him. And then once he comes towards him, then he'll play a pass into the space that's just opened up. So he's a useful player in that regard, Matip.
Yeah.
And Lovren didn't, well, I suppose he did sometimes, yeah. Lovren performed as close to Matip, I think, as I've ever seen him do, which I'm not sure we'll see again. But maybe it's then from just Palace's approach to the defensive side of the game on a day. But yeah, I'm talking like Liverpool have lost. Liverpool obviously won the match 2-1.
Yeah.
But we are obviously about performances on this podcast predominantly. And I think Liverpool's performance on the day was just for me a little bit lacking in intensity, both with and without the ball for large periods.
But why do you think that is, though? Do you feel like it's because it was just one of those days, or is the busy? I don't just mean, when I say the high amount of fixtures, don't just mean having the fixtures to play. I mean having fixtures that are at the very top end of the game, so Liverpool can't just kind of... for other teams, you can go through Premier League season and kind of, you have your big games, then you'll have your mundane games that you might draw or even lose. But for Liverpool, every game is huge, isn't it? Every game is huge. And do you think that's draining mentally? And could that be what we're seeing sometimes in the likes of these performances, or is it just a bad day at the office, in your opinion?
I mean, possibly it is draining mentally, but if it was draining mentally, if they didn't show that by the end of the match, because we still managed to end up coming through it and winning. Maybe it's a case of Liverpool managing their energy. Maybe it's a case of Liverpool staying in whatever gear is enough to get them the win rather than going full throttle. I'm not particularly sure, but it just felt as though, as I said, Palace broke easier than other teams I've seen against Liverpool. And Liverpool showed a bit less forward intent on the ball in possession. Just to capture the shot count point that I mentioned earlier. Liverpool don't tend to lose the shot count. We've lost the shot count Sunday. Was it Sunday? Saturday. Yeah. Saturday against Crystal Palace.
It's been a busy few days, hasn't it, mate?
Yeah, this is my third podcast in the space of 24 hours. So, but lost the shot count against Palace on the weekend. Before that, we lost it against Chelsea away. We deemed that as quite... What one was that? Lucky win. That was that one. Newcastle away last season, when we scraped the win towards the end of the campaign. West Ham away last season, we drew that 1-1 all. And Leicester away last season, we ended up winning that one 2-1, but that was quite a lucky escape too. So whenever this seems to happen, Liverpool either seem to draw or basically leave having benefited from good fortune, really.
It's not really a position you want to be in, is it?
No.
As you often talk about, you want to outshoot your opponent.
Yeah, and that is basically why the likes of Arsenal and Spurs, up until recently at least, have different results every single week. Sometimes they win, sometimes they draw, sometimes they lose. It's because they haven't been able to dominate the shot counts, particularly Arsenal. Yeah. Liverpool win most weeks because they have that under their control, but on the weekend against Palace, that didn't really seem to be the case. Although Liverpool did win the expected goals on the day, Palace posted an expected goals of about 1.1 compared to Liverpool's in about 1.6-ish, something like that. So Liverpool obviously had slightly more clear-cut chances. One more negative I want to touch on. I mean, going down a bit of a rabbit hole here.
Get them out the way.
In terms of negatives, yeah. But I think Trent.
Yeah.
Just defensively, a little bit off it for me.
Yeah,
Frustrating.
We talked about this last week, and someone pulled us on it a little bit, saying he's proved his defensive capabilities. I'm still not 100% sure on them, and you know, certainly for Palace's goal, he just seemed pretty pedestrian and getting back, and you know, I wonder whether maybe he's in such a unique position where, rightfully so, everybody really values him, especially his attacking input, and that's what everybody talks about. I just wonder whether his mindset is a little bit of, you know, I'm so good in attack that maybe his defensive responsibilities now in his head come second a little bit, or he doesn't value them as highly as he once did. And certainly at times it would seem as though on Saturday that was the case a little bit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. He was just saying it's not so much his defensive, like for example, when he faced up in a 1-on-1, it's not so much his defensive game in that regard.
Yeah,
it's just when the ball is lost, you have to be more focused than you actually are, and you have to be more willing to run, get back into position, help your teammates, work for your teammates. And there was just a few moments at Selhurst Park when Liverpool lost the ball and Palace would go through with a quick counter-attack, and Trent would be just basically jogging back, a little bit lazy. I will say that anyone that's played 11-a-side on them pitches, it is tiring to constantly run up and down the flanks all day. I understand it. And if that's the case, then, you know, fair enough. But I can't help but thinking that he's maybe reliant on other players to carry him a little bit without the ball, and he's inclined to think that, you know, I might not get back, but it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because of, you know, I don't know, Van Dijk, Alisson, you know, it'll be fine sort of thing. But I said to you before, didn't I? Gary Neville said a couple of weeks ago, he said Trent almost needs to cost Liverpool a big game. He almost needs to be responsible for a really big error or loss or something along those lines, just to put it into perspective in his head, just to get him back in terms of this is what can happen if you're not running at 100% your capacity sort of thing.
I think he could have certainly played a part in stopping Palace's goal. You know, he's jogging back and Benteke cuts in and he's there or thereabouts, but I think if he really works hard to get back, he could have got a foot in there. If not, he could at least maybe track Zaha. I'm not saying he would have tracked them all the way into the 18-yard box, because obviously that wouldn't make sense. There's players there, but I think he could have played a part in stopping the goal, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we're analysing the minute details here and ifs and buts, you know, and there's no guarantee. But I do agree. I think but I think there's also an aspect that he's still young, isn't it? And, you know, he's still learning. He's still only 21. Maybe that sort of mistake will happen soon, and it'll just realign his role. Yeah,
I mean, you mentioned his age there. I suppose at that age, you are a bit more inclined to become slightly complacent, particularly if, I mean, Liverpool have lost once in the Premier League, I think, in about 52 matches now. So it's probably quite normal for a lad of that age to assume the perspective of, if I don't get back, we will be fine.
Yeah.
Which isn't a great thing, but, and you know, I'd expect Klopp to be quite aware of it and making sense aware of it. But you mentioned there that he could have prevented Palace's goal. I think he's jogging back at one point, and from his outlook, it maybe looks like I won't be able to stop this. The play is too ahead of me. But then once the play materialises and Trent realises, okay, I can influence this, then he sprints. And if he'd sprinted from the start, then you would have been able to influence it fully.
That's the point I was basically hinting at. Yeah, he I think, was it Lovren that Benteke knocks it past? I can't remember who it was, but if he works harder to get back, you 2-on-1 there, two defenders versus an attacker, it's very unlikely he's going to be able to do anything with that ball. But as I said, it's such minute details that maybe we're being a little bit harsh on the goal point at least. But it is a good point, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we have praised him virtually every week.
Yeah.
He is unbelievable with the ball, and he's performing. He's interpreting the role of right back differently to what I've ever seen before in the Premier League. But it's just, you know, that complacency you don't want to seep in, and you don't want them to get the perception of, I am an in-possession player, and then without the ball, you're just jogging and letting others carry it. You don't really want that, so...
You can't do that in a defensive position. That's one drawback of him reinventing this right wing back role, is you can't do that. Say some attackers can't they? You can kind of be like that, but you still got to be a defender first and foremost. Yeah,
but you know, beyond all that, Liverpool did find another way of winning again. 37 points, is it? From a possible 39, I think. You know, remarkable, yeah. I mean...
Did you see the tweet that I put up yesterday about Liverpool conceding late goals?
No, I don't think so.
I basically said that Liverpool have conceded 7 of their 11 Premier League goals in the final 30 minutes of their matches. But it's quite remarkable that not one of them has led to them dropping points.
Yeah.
I think that comes to that ability to either shut up shop or go on and somehow find a response, no matter how late it is.
Yeah, well, this is why you can't help thinking that maybe Liverpool just have gears. And maybe in certain matches when we aren't going completely full throttle, I mean, you can't help thinking that maybe it's just a ploy, just to save energy for the big games in the season that will obviously end up coming. Because whenever Liverpool do need a goal, we seem to be able to just find it, just like step it up a level sort of thing. And such an adaptable side. And, you know, being able to find this means of winning. I think it just comes down to the intangibles sort of thing. You know, if you've fostered a culture over the course of about 3 years under a manager that believes in this sort of thing, he believes in, you know, all for one sort of thing, and everyone united from top to bottom, and it's not over until we say it's over. And it's actually came true, and I think it speaks volumes that when Liverpool did concede, said to you before, that on the 81st minute, I didn't really feel that in trouble. I still thought Liverpool could win it. Yeah. Still felt as though it was in our hands. And that's with 10 minutes of the game remaining away from home at a stubborn defensive team. Yeah,
it does say a lot about the mindset when you see 10 minutes as plenty of time. You know, where there's other sides, you probably think, well, 10 minutes, game's dead now. So yeah, testament really to Liverpool's ability at the moment in scoring late goals, and important goals at that.
Yeah, so the current gap is 8 points still to Leicester, impressively. I think we'll readdress them later in the season, but maybe a couple of our initial points that we made on them a couple of weeks ago, they have improved upon, which is normal. I think he's got now a stable 11 and things like that, and he's obviously working towards an end goal. So, and I think they're progressing towards there. So, credit to Brendan Rodgers there. But we'll move on to a brief word about Napoli, because they seem to be in a weird state of not sure what you'd say.
Turmoil?
Yeah, turmoil. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure what's gone on, but players seem to be aren't going to play, are they? Am I right in saying that's what the players
along those lines? Yeah.
I basically tried to read up on it earlier, and I can't quite work out what's going on. But there's turmoil behind the scenes, and I don't expect it to be a similar match to last season's, where Liverpool won 1-0. It was a bit of a tight affair. I don't really know what to expect. I think Napoli are quite a robust side. I'm not. Basically, if they were coming now, I would expect it to be something similar to what we've seen on the previous 3 meetings. But I just think the way it is at the moment, it could be a bit of a mess, and it could be one of them where they just get turned over. Yeah,
well, again, this comes down to the intangibles, doesn't it? Yeah. And if a player is, if a squad's unhappy, or I don't know if they're not particularly committed to what Ancelotti's doing, or I think I've heard murmurs of him being relatively in trouble regarding his future, then the last place you want to go with that kind of mindset is probably Anfield. Liverpool only need 1 point to qualify, which I'm inclined to think we'll get on the day.
That's a modest way of putting it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just to elaborate on Napoli's current situation, their last 6 matches in all competitions, I think, 1-1, 0-0, 1-1, 2-1 loss, 2-2, 1-1. Plenty of, matches in there that they probably should have won as well. Just based on the strength of the opposition. They're without Milik and they're without Insigne. As we just said, reports about squad mutiny in there. So it'll be an interesting one to see how that one plays out, because obviously Liverpool only need the points. We will obviously be inclined to save energy if we can. So I don't think we'll go out there. I think Klopp's got mutual respect as well regarding Ancelotti, so I don't think we'll go out there and demolish them 6-0 or something like that. But I think just based on Napoli's current situation, I think it's possible to appreciate that we could do that if we wanted to almost, which sounds very arrogant.
I actually, just based on all circumstances, it wouldn't surprise me if it was just a very unlike Liverpool-Napoli game, because we've seen it 3 times over the past 12 months. You feel like you've got a bit of a feel for how they play. It tends to be fairly tight. I think this game, because of those issues that we just mentioned, could be quite a comfortable win for Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, just Napoli are unchanged really since we last faced them and since we faced them a year ago. Still sitting up in a 4-4-2, although it's inclined to adjust slightly dependent on the opponent. And Ancelotti has this really effective ploy really up against Liverpool, whereby he instructs one of his fullbacks to advance on and provide kind of an outlet for his team to drive up the field, and that allows Napoli to form a back 3 with the remaining 3 defenders, and that back 3 occupies Mane, Salah and Firmino, with Koulibaly up against Salah in particular. So it does seem to work against us as well. We've generally found it quite difficult. We beat Napoli 1-0 last season, but we also lost away, and we lost away this season. So, what he seems to be doing tactically does seem to work against Liverpool. But as I said, this time I'm inclined to think that won't be the case.
No, it's a shame. Well, it's not a shame from the point of view. It's great, but as I said, they have been really intriguing battles. But I just don't expect this one to be like that, sadly, for Napoli. But great news for Liverpool.
Yeah. Before we move on, predictions on that one?
Yeah, as I said, I've got a feeling I won't go too extreme, but I do fancy a Liverpool 3-0.
Yeah, I was thinking 3-0, maybe 3-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
But we'll move on anyway to Brighton. Got Brighton on the weekend. Graham Potter, highly rated.
Yeah, very
amongst
so.
Amongst most.
I think it was the fact that he was so highly rated from certainly on the surface of just looking at the league table and nothing behind it. Now, Swansea didn't particularly do great last season in terms of points return, but people were still very excited by Potter, weren't they? And obviously Brighton made the necessary steps to bring him in as manager at the end of last season. Well, sorry, start of this season. Yeah,
I mean, little bit of a segue here, but obviously Marco Silva's supposedly in trouble. I'm assuming Graham Potter's relatively in the fray for yourself in terms of the type of person that you'd maybe be inclined to get in.
Potentially, yeah, but it just seems, I think that would be a good move for Everton, but I don't believe...
You can't see it.
I just couldn't... Why would he... No disrespect to Everton now, but why would he move to Everton so soon when he's only just gone to Brighton? If we were talking 2 years down the line, maybe, but I think he seems inclined to maybe look to try, although he wasn't there at Swansea long, he seems inclined to maybe try and find a club where he can build something.
Yeah, a bit of a long-term type, yeah.
And I think at Brighton he could do that.
Yeah, no, I agree on that, yeah. He seems a bit like Klopp in that regard. Just, focused on the intangibles and culture and things like that. I think he's big on culture behind the scenes.
Laying the foundations rather than just on the pitch stuff.
Yeah, all as one sort of thing, and a bit philosophical, and getting to know the players outside the pitch, all that sort of stuff, which in the long run does make a difference. If you can get the players committed to the cause, and as though, everything on the pitch matters beyond just a result, then, players are likely to run an extra mile for you.
Yeah.
But Brighton as a club, you know, very, very interesting. Certainly applicable to this show, I suppose, because they're very data focused, aren't they?
Yeah, they do. Some of the recruitment that they do seems to be stuff that we would probably crudely term data signings.
Yeah.
And yet they just seem a very modern club. The hierarchy with the director of football in there, and they seem everything that you'd expect if you wanted to use that term, modern club, which is in turn maybe help them overperform compared to what you'd expect. You know, you'd probably look at Brighton as a club traditionally and see them as a second tier side, you know, maybe a lower end championship team, but they're now a firmly established Premier League club, aren't they?
Yeah, well, do you think they've still got the defensive, what's the word, identity, though, like amongst football fans in England? Do you think they've still got people that are likely to look at them and think, oh, defensive team?
Yeah, well, I think the problem is, and I said this to you earlier on the show we did, that and a lot of football fans will focus on their own team and drift in and out of interest on what other sides to do. And I think Brighton could be a prime example of that, seeing them as very much like maybe the team under Chris Hughton.
Yeah.
But what's really impressed me about Potter is how he's come in and done something similar to what was his name? Frank de Boer tried to do Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
In some ways, just he's come in and completely changed it, but it's to an extent worked. Whereas obviously it failed big time, Frank de Boer. I think a lot of that comes down to some smart recruitment, such as Webster from Bristol City and in defence. And yeah, I've been really impressed with how they've transitioned.
Yeah, I think Palace's transition was quite naive though.
Yeah.
I think they did it, I think, without a director of football, and they did it without, you know, under the previous manager, getting in players that are going to be suited to the new identity that you want, whereas Brighton started to recruit those new types of players under Chris Hughton. And now when the new fellas come in, straight away he's got players that are suited to the transition.
Yeah, like the platform already in place.
Yeah, like Brighton have got a director of football, Neil, who is it? His name escapes me. He's been former FA director, I think, linked with Manchester United at times. You gonna get his name? No.
It must be an old. No, it's an old.
We'll
come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Dan Ashworth. Yeah.
Said he? Oh no, yeah, it is Dan Ashworth, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, current director of football at Brighton, and obviously he's been instructed by the owner, who's Tony Bloom. Tony Bloom's a famous sports bettor, playing the markets and things like that. So obviously he's very numbers focused, very strategic in the way that he thinks regarding the game. He's got a director of football in, and the approach has been to transition to a new style of play, basically a style of play that's going to take them up the table and be more sustainable in the league rather than just defending for 90 minutes like they did a little bit under Chris Hughton. So yeah, trying to instill a more modern game for me, a bit more offensive. The formation of choice this season, I think, has predominantly been 3-4-2-1, 3 at the back. And obviously they've used those data types signings, such as Webster that you've just mentioned, Neil Maupay, they got from Brentford, another data club. They got Yves Bissouma last season, they got Trossard in the summer. These are players that, from my perspective, it looks as though they've certainly incorporated data into these types of signings, a bit like Liverpool.
I'm just having a look. He seems to favour that formation, but he's quite fluid, isn't he? Which is I'm such a big fan of, especially top sides don't really need to change the philosophy because they tend to have the best players, which means they can implement what they want and be successful. But I like sides who are happy to, change the tactics to basically try and overcome the strengths of the opposition. And he seems a very tactically fluid manager, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
he does often mix up formations and stuff and playing style, and that's a testament to him really and what he's doing with Brighton. I do like him. Yeah, I mean the reason I said that formation is because he has used that quite frequently, and particularly against top opponents. So I think he used it against United Yeah.
And I think he used it against City away, which is probably the most comparable to Anfield away.
Definitely.
So that's what I'm expecting going into the match, which I'm not sure. How would you perceive that formation to bode for Liverpool's team? Because I would, if it's a back three, a little bit different to a back five, but usually when we play against back five, back three formations, Liverpool's fullbacks are usually heavily involved because of the space that you're likely to get ahead of that back five. And
yeah, I wonder, as I said, because he is quite fluid, I wonder whether he will adapt it slightly, given that there's no one as proficient than Liverpool in terms of fullbacks attacking. One thing I do want to add, because obviously on that, is even though that's what he's utilised against these sides, they haven't had a great record, have they, really, against these teams? Annoyingly, I've just lost me connection there, but I know they didn't really. I think they've lost against virtually every perceived top side this season.
I mean, they did beat Spurs 3-0, but that was at home, and Spurs were a shambles. Yeah, Spurs were a mess at that point.
So because they went to Old Trafford in the formation we talk about, 3-4-1-2, and they got beat 3-1.
What's the expected goals on that though? Did they perform okay?
Not bad. Yeah, it was 0.86. So probably good value for the goal. But United, who don't really have a great attack, they were over 2.
Yeah, okay. So they're well beaten there then.
Yeah. We also got Chelsea again. They had an XG of 0.72, but Chelsea had an XG of 3.4. So again, well beaten, and it doesn't.
One thing I did pick up on, to be honest, elaborating on what you've just said there, with the exception of Spurs, they do seem to have struggled a little bit in regard to generating shots against top opponents. Yeah, so if you look at the shots that they've generated against City, United, and who's the other team? Chelsea.
Yeah,
there's fewer than 8 in each occasion, I think.
Yeah, it's a good point. So I mean, shots on the whole United, it was 4, but only 1 on target. Where are we? Chelsea again. 8, 1 on target.
City, I think it was 5, wasn't it?
City 5, yeah, 3 on target. But as I said, with an XG of 0.75, it tends to suggest that the shots weren't of any great value. So yeah, I just think that's interesting that they have struggled a little bit against these perceived top teams.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they set up against Liverpool, because obviously if the transition into this modern assertive style, if you like, and then inclined to build from the back and things like that, there's obviously a greater degree of risk doing that against Liverpool at Anfield in comparison to other teams week in, week out. So,
do you think, and I've seen you flagged it just on our agenda there, but it's something I did spot myself. The Potter side is perceived as being really possession focused, isn't it? But it's not necessarily just kind of for example, I don't think they go to Anfield and just try and play Liverpool off the park, will they?
No, I think he's a bit more like a Norwich.
Yeah.
No, I think he's a bit more realistic than that.
Yeah,
a bit more pragmatic.
Pragmatic, yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
But I think they're an interesting team at the minute. According to numbers, just delving into them, they're very much a bang average mid-table side at the minute, which isn't really a criticism, because I think it's roughly what they're trying to get towards anyway.
Well, we're talking about Brighton, aren't we? As we touched on earlier, they're not a traditional Premier League side, and they're just trying to establish themselves.
Yeah, I think they're just very much an okay, fine team that are just progressing towards an end goal that's going to be possibly better. But at the minute, they're just, drifting in the middle, really, which is, again, fine, for a new manager who's integrating a new style of play. They've averaged the 7th most passes in the division. Sorry, they've hit the 7th most passes in the division. They average the 7th most possession. 17th for expected goals. So obviously they're still finding the feet on the attacking side of the game. But defensively, expected goals against, they are 10th. 12th for shots taken, 11th for shots faced, 11th for PPDA, which we know is pressing. So just, as I said, very much a mid-table, almost like a beige team, really. If you didn't know a great deal about Potter and about Brighton's past and the owner and what they're trying to do, you'd look at that and just think it's just a normal vanilla team.
Yeah,
really,
run of the
you?
mill. Yeah.
But I mean, they've got more about them than that, which we've obviously just addressed. But strictly based on the numbers, they nothing special, nothing terrible either, really.
But yeah, maybe at this stage, while because as you said, looking at that, you'd be a little bit. You could potentially be underwhelmed, but
Yeah,
it's probably best, and maybe you'll disagree, to perceive this season, maybe the next, is just laying the foundations for maybe something better that might come along further down the line. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, if they continue to recruit how they have, you know, I don't think they've made many mistakes in the market. So if they continue to build and they continue to sign players that end up coming in and establishing first team places, and their squad gets better while executing the same game plan, same game model, if you like, they should gradually climb the table.
Yeah.
It's just a case of, at the minute, still a little bit caught between styles, although I do think they are better than the numbers suggest. I think that they themselves have suffered from a little bit of bad luck. I think they've had a few men sent off as well.
Yeah.
Which will obviously impact the results. I haven't even checked, actually, where are they in the table?
I can check for you now, Josh.
I'm going to guess they're around 15th.
Let's make sure I got this in right.
15th or so.
So 12th.
12th.
You know, and because of how tight the table is, they're 3 points off 6th.
What about the expected points table?
Expected points table, we've got them at... I have to count that down. 10th. And so in the top 10.
Yeah, so just like run of the mill at the minute. Bang average team in the Premier League, which again, not really a criticism. Just I think it's roughly what Brighton were after. I think saw an interview with Dan Ashworth during the season, and you know, he was asked what does Tony Bloom want for Brighton, and I think he just said a consistent top 10 team in the Premier League, which is what they're moving towards, really.
Yeah.
But I think from a Liverpool perspective, it is nice to play these teams, the teams that are transitioning towards a new game, but they're not really there yet.
Yeah.
And they're not going to hurt you that much on the opposite end.
I'm not tempting fate, but I would be very surprised if Liverpool didn't have I'm not saying steamroll them, but if they didn't have a comfortable afternoon.
Yeah, I would say the same, yeah.
I'd be inclined, to be honest, to maybe mix the team up a little bit. Is that pushing it too far, you think? I don't want to disrespect them, or don't want to...
No, I know where you're coming from, because we do have Napoli midweek, and obviously we have Everton after that.
Yeah.
So maybe they're more intense games, but I suppose it just depends. It just depends on how the Napoli game goes, whether any players get knocks or anything like that. But I understand where you're coming from in terms of, this is no disrespect to Brighton, but it should be a relatively comfortable match. I fancy Liverpool to score in and around 3, if I'm honest. I think that's what City got during the season against them, without playing particularly well. Yeah. And Brighton did cause them problems going forward as well. But
I think the assessments of people who were there, I say I've looked at the numbers, but people were saying they played well and probably could have. The scoreline didn't reflect that performance.
Yeah, I mean, opponents tend to take, based on the season so far, roughly about 13 shots compared to Brighton's 11. So they are getting outshot on average by about 2, which will likely increase against Liverpool. So, I mean, few dangers. I think Neil Maupay, who I've just mentioned earlier, is probably their most dangerous player at the minute. Obviously showed up very well last season in terms of expected goals and expected assists and things like that. I think he's relatively young, quick. So he's certainly a danger we'll have to cater for. I think he's slightly more left-sided too, which again doesn't bode particularly well for Trent. But yeah, I think it'll be a relatively comfortable match. I fancy Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson to be heavily involved. And if they're not heavily involved, then that means Brighton are likely affording space in and around Liverpool's front 3.
Yeah, so, there's multiple options really, isn't there, that on the surface it looks like Liverpool will be able to profit from.
Yeah, just like Liverpool are a bit of a double jeopardy type team at the minute, whereby, you know, if you do want to take care of one problem, another's probably going to emerge elsewhere.
I like that term, double jeopardy.
Well, you know, I might as well just plug it now. There's a piece going out today from yourself.
This looks like such an assist by me.
It does. It does. Go on and take him quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, piece going up today on Liverpool and how they're able to just present a double jeopardy type prospect to the opposing team. You know, if you do want to compensate in a certain zone of the pitch, Liverpool have probably got a threat elsewhere, and you know, Liverpool just being basically the complete puzzle really from an opposition perspective. But yeah, I think it's going to have to be a shorter episode this week because we were going to address Everton, but I think next week we're going to give you 2 episodes, aren't we? Yeah,
it just felt, you know, it seemed wrong to shoehorn Everton in at the end of this episode. You know, we're already looking at 2 opposition sides anyway, aren't we? And Everton's obviously, for most people, one of the bigger games of the season. And there's a lot going on there as well. There's a lot for us to talk about. We both obviously host now Analysing Everton's show, so we're well versed in Everton, we're well versed in Liverpool, and I think it just deserves a little bit more than, you know, 15 minutes at the end.
Plus, it's worth noting as well that we don't entirely know who's even going to be in charge when the derby actually comes around.
Yeah, there's a lot that can happen in the next 7 days, so it's one that's we'll give some due care and attention on next week.
Yeah, so a little bit of a shorter episode this week, but that's simply because next week we're going to, I think, be providing 2 episodes, one before the derby and one after the derby. So hopefully Liverpool go into that match with a couple of wins, and yeah, we'll address the derby next week. So thanks for joining us, Dave.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thank you, everyone.
And yeah, thanks for tuning in. See you next week.